The grand hall of Zaldrun Prime shimmered under artificial starlight, a grotesque blend of opulence and menace. Crystal spires twisted from the ceiling like frozen lightning, and walls pulsed with alien glyphs in colors that hurt to look at too. Long, a dozen species flanked the central chamber, their diplomats seated in silence, some awed, most tense. But at the apex of it all, lounging on a throne crafted from the fused skulls of extinct war beasts, was High Lord Kravix of the Draken Imperium. He was tall even while seated, with obsidian scales that refracted the light like armor. He sipped from a goblet filled with liquid fire and eyed the newcomers as though already bored. Humanity, he sneered, letting the word roll out like a curse. The last to crawl in from their muddy cradle. Marcus Grayson stood on the red-lit dais, smiling faintly. His suit was outdated by 2 decades, his stance too casual for interstellar diplomacy, yet his voice carried authority. On Earth we greet new friends with gifts. It's a custom. He nodded toward his daughter beside him. Clea Grayson stepped, forward, youthful and calm. Her eyes sparkled with sincerity, and she carried an old Earth object wrapped in cloth. "We brought something from our planet," she said. "A record player, analog, pre-digital. It plays music from our 20th century." Kravix's slitted eyes narrowed. "A device that plays noise. Music," she corrected gently, lifting the lid. With a soft crackle, the needle touched vinyl, and a voice crooned out, "Shot through the heart and you're to blame." The chamber tensed, Kravix's goblet shattered in his clawed grip. "Is this mockery?" hissed General Sark, a lizard-like figure with golden fangs. "You present primitive toys and mating howls?" "It's Bon Jovi," Clea said, blinking. "A classic. The humans never saw the attack coming." In the blink of an eye, Draken soldiers surrounded Clea. One struck Marcus across the jaw, another bound his arms. She was dragged back by her hair, struggling but not screaming. The music played on, absurdly, upbeat, as the aliens declared their decree. "She insulted the High Lord," barked Sark. "Her blood shall honor Verox." Marcus coughed blood, yelling through broken teeth. "She's a civilian. She's a child." "She is meat," Kravix said coldly, and gestured. The great iron gates to the east opened with a thunderous groan. From the shadows beyond came a roar that trembled the walls. The crowd pressed back as Verox stepped forward. The dragon was unlike anything in Earth's mythology. 3 stories tall, its wings shimmered with solar foil, its mouth bristled with plasma jets. Its eyes, cold and insectile, locked onto Clea with a hunger not born of instinct but programming. "No," Marcus whispered, shaking with fury. "No, no, no." The execution was swift. One Draken lifted a blade, another held her still. Verox roared. By the time the humans were dragged from the chamber, her head was gone. What remained of her was tossed at the dragon's feet like a trophy. A silence settled across the hall, broken only by the fading strains of Earth music still playing from the record. "You give love a bad name." Kravix stood, addressing the assembly. "Let this be a lesson to the galaxy. Earth is nothing. Its children are dust. Their defiance earns only extinction." The other diplomats, many hiding fear behind stoic faces, remained silent. Later, in the sterile quarters where they imprisoned Marcus, he sat with hands bound, lips split, eyes hollow. Across from him, a Draken aide watched impassively. "You think this breaks us?" Marcus asked, voice rasping. "That you've sent a message?" The aide didn't respond. Marcus leaned forward slowly. "You haven't killed a girl. You've planted something." His tone shifted, dangerously calm. "A seed. And it's going to grow into something your empire won't survive." Silence. "You fed my daughter to your dragon," he said. "Now we'll feed your empire to our grief, in orbit, aboard the Earth diplomatic cruiser." Horizon Dawn. A red light began to blink on the command console. The AI activated its emergency protocol, unprompted. A soft, synthetic voice spoke into the silence of the bridge. Hellfire Protocol. Initiated. Level 1 diplomatic casualty confirmed. Authorization pre-granted by Executive Order 001. Somewhere in a secret Earth installation, a man covered in old scars sat up from a recliner, brushing Dorito crumbs from his shirt. He reached for a coffee mug that read, "World's Okayest Uncle," and muttered, "Well, sauce." Back in his prison cell, Marcus closed his eyes. "You think this was a warning?" he whispered almost to himself. "But this was the last mistake your empire will ever make." And far beneath the Draken Palace, Verox stirred in its lair, restless. A taste lingered on its tongue. But somewhere in its cybernetic mind, unease crept in like static. The girl had not begged. The meat had not feared. Something was wrong. Something was coming. The night sky above Earth's North Dakota outlands lit up with the flicker of deorbiting satellites. Dozens of dormant defense systems activated in sequence, some as old as the Cold War, others never officially acknowledged in any government document. Deep below the frostbitten plains, inside a camouflaged silo that posed as a decommissioned grain storage facility, a siren howled. Retired Colonel Buck, Hellhound Mercer, cracked open one bleary eye. "Karen, is that you making that noise, or did I finally die and go to robot hell?" A voice replied with a chirp of old sarcasm and endless exasperation. "Good morning, Colonel. Hellfire Protocol has been initiated. Diplomatic casualty, Clea Grayson. Code red escalation. Prep time, 0. Buck sat up, grunted, and fished around for his pants, still draped over a mounted moose antler. "Clea Grayson, as in Marcus's girl?" "I'm afraid so." Buck didn't say anything for a moment. He just stared at the wall, at the old framed photo of a teenage Clea standing between two grizzled Earth diplomats at the Interstellar Science Fair, holding a medal made from Martian alloy. The girl had beaten out a Centauri war prince's child with a working AI that solved moral paradoxes using jokes. Buck had been the one to sneak her Earth ice cream when the aliens refused dairy. He stood, bones creaking, and muttered, "Guess it's time to stretch the legs." Within 20 minutes, the entire underground base was humming. Generators growled to life, hidden bunkers groaned open, drones swept the area in silent concentric circles. Buck stepped into the command center wearing camo cargo pants, combat, boots, and a t-shirt that read, "Make aliens scared again." Karen's voice echoed through the speakers. Marcus flagged this possibility years ago. Embedded code in the summit diplomacy logs triggered the alert. Buck glanced at the monitor. A hologram of Marcus Grayson flickered to life, recorded years ago just in case. "If you're seeing this, I failed as a diplomat," Marcus said, his face unreadable. "They took Clea. That means there's no coming back. The Draken don't understand negotiation, they only understand cost. So show them one. Show them what it means to lose something irreplaceable." Buck rubbed his jaw. "I like that. Man, he once beat a Grell ambassador at poker with a straight face and no cards. Emotionally unstable, overly sentimental, deeply unpredictable," Karen said. "In other words, deeply human." "You say that like it's a bug, not a feature." Within the hour, Buck was aboard the Brick, his personal infiltration vessel, an angular, ugly monstrosity that looked like a dumpster glued to a rocket. But every inch of it was coated in 1980s-era tech, completely invisible to advanced tracking. Systems due to its sheer irrelevance. As the ship launched through the stratosphere, Buck reviewed the plan. Locate the Draken homeworld, infiltrate under the radar, recover any biological remnants of Clea for DNA reconstruction, and introduce the Imperium to Earth's concept of poetic vengeance. "Do you think it'll work?" Karen asked mid-burn. "Do I think sneaking past a fire-breathing mega-dragon and an army of scale-clad fascists to steal back the remains of a murdered girl while starting a galaxy-wide rebellion led by Earth cultural artifacts will work?" Buck leaned back. "Absolutely not," he smirked, "but it'll be fun trying." The Brick entered stealth mode and vanished into slipspace. On Zaldrun Prime, things were not going as the Draken had hoped. Verox, the genetically engineered dragon, refused food. The usual vat-grown ox beasts, even the imported lava lizards from Thermos 9, lay untouched in its pit. It had returned to its alcove, low and brooding, making deep resonant growls that rattled stone. High Lord Kravix frowned as he watched the beast through a surveillance orb. "It's defective." "No, my lord," General Sark hissed. "It is remembering." Kravix turned slowly. "Explain." "The human girl," Sark said, shifting uneasily. "She didn't scream, she didn't fight. She looked at Verox and said something we did not translate." "What?" She said, "My father will come for you." Then she smiled. "Smiled, my lord." Kravix considered this. "Then let him come." On the outer edge of the Zaldrin system, the brick uncloaked. Buck stood in the cockpit wearing a flight suit patched with duct tape and nostalgia. Karen buzzed in his ear. "Atmosphere is breathable. Defensive satellites on low alert. Entry vector clear if we spoof our IFF as a food delivery transport. Tell me we still have the menu from the Neptune noodle bar. Uploading now. Try not to giggle." Moments later, the brick appeared on the Draken planetary logs as gourmet imports, spicy cephalopod dumplings for dragon breeding pens. The security AI flagged it as disgusting but plausible. Buck touched down in a maintenance bay at the edge of the palace complex, stepped out with a large crate labeled live snacks, and casually wheeled it past a pair of Draken guards, nodding as he passed. "I swear they're getting uglier," he muttered under his breath. Once inside, Buck removed the crate shell, revealing a stealth harness laced with retro tech. A cassette player hung from his hip, cables snaking into EMP coils. In one hand, he held a repurposed leaf blower modified to fire compressed sound bursts. He moved fast through the underlayers of the palace, dodging patrols and rerouting surveillance feeds with a handheld Sega Genesis controller. Every piece of gear he carried was obsolete by at least 2 centuries, perfectly undetectable by the hyper-modern Draken systems. In the bowels of the mountain, behind 4 layers of biometrics and a password-protected gate that required a hiss pattern only, a true Draken could replicate. Buck reached the dragon pit. Verox slept, its vast body coiled in molten shadows. In the eerie silence, Buck crept forward, scanned the ground. At the edge of a pile of charred bone, he saw it, an ornamented containment pod, Draken Biotech, labeled in blood script. Inside, a crystal vial, Clea's DNA, preserved. He reached for it slowly, reverently. But the dragon's eyes snapped open. "You really are as dumb as you are ugly," Buck said, not flinching. Verox reared back with a shriek that could have shattered mountains. Buck hit play. The cassette player screamed out, "Enter Sandman," by Metallica. The shockwave of raw, amplified analog distortion slammed into the beast's skull like a sledgehammer of rock and roll. Verox stumbled back, stunned by the sheer chaos of human music. A sound unfiltered by digital moderation, unprocessed by harmony algorithms. Buck fired the leaf blower. Compressed sonic rounds overloaded the beast's audio receptors. Verox roared and lunged, clawing at the sound. "Karen!" Buck shouted, ducking under a gout of plasma flame. "Plan Delta! Deploying microwave." From the ceiling dropped a modified household microwave strapped to a gravity anchor. Buck shoved in a burrito wrapped in uranium foil and hit start. The countdown began. 8 seconds. Buck sprinted, vial in hand, dragon, in pursuit. The microwave dinged. Verox's head reached the device at the moment it detonated, not with heat, but with a concentrated pulse of radiation, magnetism, and leftover fragments of a Nickelback CD used as a diffuser. The explosion blew a hole in the roof and vaporized half the dragon's face. Buck limped into the light, coughing, blistered, laughing. "That's what I call a hot pocket." He climbed the extraction ramp, vial secured, face covered in soot. "Got the girl," he said into his comms. "And I lit their pet on fire." "Extracting you now," Karen replied. Zaldrin airspace no longer safe. As the brick launched skyward, alarms howled across the city. Kravix stood in the throne room watching the fire rise from the dragon pit, his claws digging into the stone arms of his seat. "You were warned," said a voice behind him. Marcus Grayson stepped from the shadows, dressed in formal black, the diplomatic crest of Earth burned into his shoulder. His face was no longer the tired mask of a negotiator. It was the steel glare of a man who had nothing left to lose. "You," Kravix began. "I told you," Marcus said. "She wasn't just a daughter. She was the line. And you crossed it." Kravix reached for a blade. Marcus dropped a small device on the floor. It beeped once. "You'll want to look up." In orbit, a satellite fired. A pulse rippled through Zeldrin's comm-net. Every screen, every wall, every surface flickered, with images of Clea laughing, singing, arguing, dancing. The Draken watched as her face spread through their civilization like wildfire. Then came the music. Rock, pop, stand-up comedy, Saturday morning cartoons. The infection had begun. Back aboard the Brick, Buck popped a cold soda and leaned back. "Hells. Coming to breakfast," he said, smiling. "And we brought the whole menu, and it smelled human." The Brick coasted through slipspace, her hull humming a dissonant lullaby composed of patched wiring, caffeine stains, and righteous fury. Buck sat in the co-pilot's seat, leg propped on a console, watching the starlight blur into streaks of memory. In his gloved hand he held the vial containing Clea's DNA, cradling it like it was the last candle in a collapsing cathedral. Karen's voice, filtered through the ship's crusty intercom, broke the quiet. "Reconstruction protocols initialized. Clea's genomic data is viable, but emotional and psychological imprinting will require more subjective material." "Like what?" Buck asked, voice low. "Memories. Personal data. Laughter. Arguments. Every stupid little thing that made her, her." Buck leaned back, eyes closed. "I remember when she hacked my exosuit to make it do cartwheels every time I lied. Nearly broke my neck during a Senate debrief. She also rewired my systems to play girls just want to have fun every time." A Draken delegation logged into the diplomacy channel. Karen added almost fondly. "She was Earth," Buck muttered. "All of it. The weird, the brave, the defiant. You can't download that." "No," Karen said, "but you can make them remember it." Back on Zeldrin Prime, chaos had metastasized. The viral burst of Earth culture, broadcast across their networks, had cracked the spine of the Draken Empire. Enforcers struggled to contain growing riots as youth cliques formed underground Clee clubs, wearing makeshift jackets made from Terran rock band posters, shouting her name in painted glyphs. The ruling caste tried scrubbing the data, but every deletion made the myth stronger. They had made her a martyr. Now they had to live with her as a legend. In the lower cities, an old Draken scribe clutched a smuggled data chip and whispered to a crowd. She looked into the dragon's eyes, and it blinked. In the palace, Kravix sat in the dark, licking the edge of a blade. "We killed a girl," he growled, "and awakened a god." High in orbit, Marcus stood at the viewport of diplomatic immunity, watching the smoke plumes rise from Draken towers. "You told me once," he said to Buck over secure line, "that humans don't start wars." Buck chuckled, sipping lukewarm soda. "We just finish 'em, with fireworks and sarcastic t-shirts. I want the next. Move to matter," Marcus said. "Not just fire. Change." Buck glanced at the vial. "Then we make her voice the anthem of every kid they ever tried to silence." Marcus nodded slowly. "Let's make the galaxy listen." The comm cut. Karen whispered, "Do you think she knew it'd end like this?" "No," Buck said. "She probably thought she'd grow old teaching aliens algebra and eating chips on Mars." He stared into the stars. "But now, she's the spark." And the fire had only just begun. Zeldrin Prime burned, not with plasma, not with bombs, but with the unsettling glow of awakening. The Empire's walls hadn't crumbled from siege, but from laughter, music, and the unstoppable power of an idea. The image of Clea, smiling, fearless, too human for their ordered world, had become a symbol etched onto every back-alley wall and every unauthorized data feed. In a dark chamber beneath the Capitol, Kravix convened the War Council. The air smelled of scorched stone and fear. "The infection spreads," hissed General Sark, his armor cracked, his eyes wide. "Half our outer colonies are playing games, singing songs. The young ones dance in circles shouting her name. The Dragon's Girl. They call her that now." Kravik slammed a clawed fist into the table. "You were supposed to kill her, break their will, not give them a messiah. She broke us," came a voice from the shadows. All heads turned as Verox entered. Not the monstrous beast of fire and steel, but something leaner, darker, wearing armor of bone and eyes that gleamed with memory. The dragon's scars from Buck's assault were barely healed, but the wound ran deeper in its expression. It bowed its head slightly. "She showed me something," Verox growled. And then they played the music, the real kind. Not programmed tones, not orchestrated pride hymns, just noise. Ugly, beautiful, stupid, alive. "I see now what you never did. You dare lecture us?" Kravik sneered. "You are our creation." "I was," Verox said. "Now I am hers." Without another word, Verox turned and walked into the burning night. Across the stars, Earth launched the broadcast. Not a weapon, not a fleet, just a frequency, a persistent pulse, piggybacked on galactic trade routes, embedded in maintenance protocols. An idle AI loops, a song looped endlessly. "Don't stop believin'." In bunkers, battleships, backwater markets, aliens of every race hummed it, confused but compelled. The tune carried with it Earth's great contradiction, resilience soaked in irony, defiance wrapped in dance moves. Marcus Grayson stood before the Galactic Council, no longer wearing the robes of diplomacy. His coat bore Clea's emblem, an old Earth peace sign merged with a star. He placed a single hologram disc on the tribunal table. "This is not a declaration of war," he said. "It's a mirror. Look into it. You killed a girl to silence her message. Instead, you gave her a galaxy-wide audience. The disc played her last words again, calm, unwavering. 'Tell my dad I'm not afraid. And tell the dragon, don't blink.'" A long silence followed. One counselor, a pale insectoid with trembling mandibles, finally said, "What do you want?" Marcus looked them all in the eye. "A monument," he said. "Not of stone, of change. Every child who speaks against tyranny, every voice stifled by empire. They speak as Clea now." Back aboard the Brick, Buck watched from orbit as construction began. Not a statue, but a network of education centers, data hubs, public forums. One on every world Clea's image had reached. Karen buzzed softly. "You think she'd have liked this?" "She'd have rolled her eyes and called it overkill," Buck grinned, then made sure we included a snack bar. He placed the DNA vial inside a growing biopod. Green lights blinked. Memory integration began. Soon, very soon, Clea Grayson would walk again, not as vengeance, as legacy. The stars blinked around them, vast and infinite, and in that silence, one small, stubborn species kept playing their songs.